Hey, good morning, class. This is Professor Kane. Welcome to week 2 of our 8-week online course. So we're getting into, we had a little break with spring break last week, but now we're getting in further into the material. So hopefully you're getting used to the textbook, those inquisitive quizzes you've taken, a couple of them, a tutorial, and a couple of them last week. So we are going to be getting into the flow, getting used to the flow of the class this week. So we'll be covering 2 sections again this week. Federalism will be our section 1 subject for this week. Federalism, the important role between the state governments and the federal government. Federalism is all about that sharing of power between the state governments and the federal government. This is this unique form of government that was created with the U.S. Constitution, meant to create a significant role for the states. It's not just the federal government telling the states what to do. The states have a lot of responsibility in this relationship. So that's what federalism, or section 1, is going to be all about. So again, you have a discussion board due on Wednesday, as well as a inquisitive reading quiz for the chapter on federalism this week. And then, by Wednesday, and then section 2, we're going to be covering the first of the 3 branches. So the U.S. Congress we'll be talking about this week, and then the executive branch and the courts next week. So this is Article 1. The Congress is where they started writing the Constitution. The framers of the United States government, of the Constitution, believed that the Congress would be where all the action would take place. That's why they're Article 1. They're listed first and are given significant power in the legislative, in the running of our government. They are the first branches. They have an important role in the checks and balances that we talked about last week in discussing the Constitution and the founding documents. The legislature has a huge role in the checks and balances, being able to check the president or the courts if they do something that the legislature thinks is too powerful, is not in line with what the country's doing. The legislature, the Congress, has significant power to step in. Of course, we have our bicameral Congress with the House of Representatives that largely represents the people, the Senate that largely represents the states. A little bit of different processes, lots of names. You have a Speaker of the House is the leader of the House of Representatives. You have the Vice President as the President of the Senate, with this very fancy title, President of the Senate, but a very narrow role. They're only the tiebreaker. They kind of sit over the Senate at times, and they are the tiebreaker. If there's an even tie, because in the Senate there's 100 senators, so there could be a 50-50 tie. If that's the case, the Vice President comes in and is the tiebreaker. But they're not really the leader of the Senate. You have the majority leader. The leader of the majority party is the day-to-day runner of the Senate, kind of comparable to the Speaker of the House over in the House, even though they are very different. The House Speaker has much more power than the Senate Majority Leader. Individual senators have a lot more power than individual House members, but the House Speaker has much more power than the Majority Leader over in the Senate. And then, of course, we'll talk about the legislative process, how a bill becomes a law, and go from there. So I hope you have a good week this week, getting back into the flow of things now that we've had that week-long break. But let me know if you have any questions at all. Our first test is going to be next weekend. So this week we're covering federalism and the Congress. Next week we'll cover the executive branch, the bureaucracy, and the courts. And then next weekend will be our first test, covering the founding documents, the Constitution, and the 3 branches of government. So that will be test number 1 next weekend, available from Friday to Sunday, which will be all of our tests. You'll have through the weekend. Once you open it, you have an hour to complete the test, but you can take it anytime from Friday morning to Sunday at midnight. Again, that's next weekend. Yeah, I hope you guys have had a great break. Welcome back to class this week. Let me know if you have any questions at all. You can reach out to me through the through Blackboard, message me in Blackboard, or email, or message me on Teams, and we'll be in touch. All right, have a great week. Thanks.